The Family TreeXcel Research Workbook is a macro-enabled Excel file that comes with the Tree Workbook, or it can be acquired as a standalone file. This workbook allows you to input, summarize, index, and organize all your source records for a person. The file comes with census input templates. These templates mirror the US and UK Census forms and allow you to easily input census records. When you link a source record to an input, a copy of the file is automatically made and indexed in an organized file structure for easy reference. You can automatically re-reference the summaries and file names at any time based on their sorted order. This allows you to add source records in any order and at any time without having to manually update all your references. Each worksheet allows you to add an analysis and conclusion of the data. You have the option to print, PDF, and export each page or the entire summary at any time, and all the summary pages are formatted and indexed automatically for you. The Research Workbook is a great help in organizing and displaying all your research information to help you draw more accurate conclusions. The Research Workbook comes with 17 visible worksheets. Each of these worksheets is protected. You should not unprotect the worksheets to prevent formulas from being messed up by mistake. Besides a person's ID, name, and date of birth, all input into the worksheets must be done through the Add and Edit Record options. However, you can still edit all the formatting of the cells, including font type, size, and fill colors. The first worksheet is the index. The index is where you can add, view, edit, publish, sort, and re-reference your source records. Each of these options are discussed in more detail later. The other 16 worksheets, referred to as summary pages, are used to summarize the research of the common categories of a person's life. Each of these worksheets are identical in their setup and options. You can print, PDF, export, and add analysis on each of these sheets. The first 3 columns of each summary page will show the source record's reference ID, the category, and the year of record. This allows you to identify what source the data is connected to. Certain dates and ages may be inferred based on record, birth, and event dates entered. Any information inferred will be highlighted in yellow to indicate it was inferred and not actually listed on the source. For example, if a census lists a person as 30 in 1900, a birth date of 1870 will automatically be inferred. You should not add or delete any summary pages to the file, nor should you modify the worksheet names. You can modify the order of the worksheets to your liking. Before adding any sources, you should enter a person's ID, name, and preferred date of birth if known. The date of birth input is only used for inferring potential dates and ages when the information is not provided by the source. On the index worksheet, you should enter the person's ID in cell A2, their full name in cell B2, their preferred birth month in F2, birthday in G2, and birth year in H2. These cells also have comments that give instructions on the input. For example, you should use the numerical value for the birth month. If you are using the Research Workbook with the Tree Workbook, then this data will automatically populate when you create the Research Workbook. Creating the Research Workbook will also generate a file folder for the person that will store the source records. Once this information is populated, you no longer need the Tree Workbook open. The Research Workbook will likely run much faster with the Tree Workbook closed, so you can close the Tree Workbook while you work on the research summaries. If you are using the standalone version, then you will be prompted to manually enter the data for the name, ID, and date of birth. To add source records, you can click on New Record or Census Record. New Record is the universal input form. It can be used for all source records. Clicking New Record will take you to the New Record worksheet. Please note that if you click on any other worksheet during this process, then any input or changes will be lost and not be saved, and this worksheet will be hidden again. Each source record will automatically be given a reference ID number. Reference ID numbers start at 100 and increase by 1 each time. You cannot modify the reference number setup at this time. On the new record worksheet, you will have 6 buttons to click on at the top. Save, which will add the source and all the data to your worksheets. Clear, which will clear all the data you inputted so far. Cancel, which will cancel the record or edit and take you back to the index page. Link file, which will allow you to select the file you wish to link to this record. Open, which will open any linked file. And unlink, which will unlink any file connected to this record. This worksheet is also protected. Besides the 6 buttons at the top, you can only click on the input cells. You can use the tab and arrow keys to navigate from input cell to input cell. The first section in black is all the source details. The record date is intended to be the date the source was created, not the date you entered the information. The record category is the general category of the source. For example, birth, death, census, and so on. You can type directly into this cell, or if you double click on the cell, you can open up a user form with a drop-down list of suggested categories. The record description is where you should provide a more specific description of the source. Again, you can type directly into this cell, or if you double click on the cell, you can open up a user form with a drop-down list of suggested descriptions. You can enter any citation and notes in the last cell in this section. If you want to copy a citation over, be sure to click on the formula bar or hit F2 on your keyboard to enter the cell first. Then choose Paste or Control V. The input for all the source records details is broken down by section and is either self-explanatory or has a comment to help you with what to enter. If you hover your mouse over those cells, you can see the instructions. For example, all month cells need the numerical month value inputted. Each section corresponds to a summary worksheet, so you know where that information will show up. It is recommended to input the data exactly how you see it on the source records, but you have the freedom to input most of the data however you please. You should only fill out the applicable cells for the source. Then when you're ready, hit Save to add the source record and its information. If a file was linked to this record, then a copy of the file will automatically be made and referenced when you click Save. Your original file will remain untouched. The copy's file name is saved in the following format: ID, reference ID, category, description. You cannot modify this setup in the file names. If you want another file name set up, let me know and I can customize your file for you. After saving, you will be taken back to the index worksheet. The index and summary worksheets should be automatically updated for all the data you just entered. You can repeat this process for all the source records you have. You can enter sources in any order and at any time. The census record option should only be used for a US Census record from 1850 to 1950 or for a UK Census record from 1841 to 1921. This option is just a shortcut for census sources. Clicking it will open a user form allowing you to choose what country, what year, adding a citation, linking a file, and viewing a file. Once you selected the options of your choice, you can hit Enter and you will be taken to the census record worksheet. Note that if you click on any other worksheet during this process, then any input or changes will be lost and not saved, and this worksheet will be hidden again. On the census record worksheet, you will have 5 buttons to click on at the top of the page. Save, which will add the source and all the data to your worksheets. Census, which will reopen the user form to edit the source details and view file options. Shrink, which will shrink the Excel window to allow you to use it as a guide across the census record. Clear, which will clear all the inputted data. And Cancel, which will cancel any unsaved changes and take you back to the index page. The census record worksheet is also protected. Besides the 5 buttons at the top, you can only click on the input cells. You can use the tab and arrow keys to navigate from input cell to input cell. The input cells mirror the actual census and take into account each question and populated the associated categories based on the input you enter. You will see the corresponding question numbers at the top of each cell. The census record worksheet saves you time on navigating around the normal new record option and deciphering what each question in the census was for. It is recommended to input the data exactly how you see it on the census. However, some input cells have limitations. You can see these limitations by hovering over the cell and reading the comments for instructions. It is completely up to you if you want to add family members or just the details specific to the person you are working on. You should fill out only the applicable cells for the census, then hit Save when you're finished to add the census record and its information to your data set. If a file was linked to this record, then a copy of the file will automatically be made and referenced when you click Save. Your original file will remain untouched. Once again, the copy of the file is saved in the following format: ID, reference ID, category, description. After saving, you will be taken back to the index worksheet. The index and summary worksheets should all be automatically updated for the data you just entered. You can repeat this process for all the census records you have. You can enter census records in any order and at any time. There are 2 ways to edit a source record. First, on the index worksheet, you can double-click on the blue edit cells. These are located in column G in the row of the source you want to edit. Second, on the index worksheet or on any of the summary worksheets, you can double-click on the blue reference number, which are located in column A in the row of the source you want to edit. Either one of these options will open the new record worksheet. All the data will populate in the respective input fields. All the cells that have input should be highlighted in yellow so it's easier to navigate and read. From here, you can modify any of the data as you wish. You should use the formula bar or use the F2 button on your keyboard to edit a cell's data. Some cells may have a lot of information, so you can't read the information in the cell itself. For those cells, use the formula bar to read and edit the details. To save any changes, click on Save Record. To cancel any changes, click on Cancel or click on any other worksheet. This will be the result even if it's a census record that you want to edit. To open a source record you already saved, on the index worksheet, double-click on the green View cells in column F for the row of the source you want to view. Also on the index worksheet, you can click on View Directory at the top to open the folder with all the saved sources so far. You can also use the Open button on the new record worksheet when you're adding or editing a source. And finally, you can use the View button on the Census user form when adding a census source. By default, the index and summary information will be listed in the order that it was added. If you want to change the order the information is listed in, on the index worksheet, you can sort your sources by reference ID, description, category, and source date. To sort, double-click on the header of the column you want to sort by. The headers are in row 4 of the index worksheet. Double-click again to alternate between ascending and descending order. This will change the order on the sources on both the index and all the summary pages. This will not change the reference numbers, just the order they are presented in. To change the reference numbers, first sort them in the order you wish, then click on Reference Update. This will renumber all the sources based on the current sorted order. So the first source in the table will become 100, the second source will become 101, and so on. This also will automatically rename all the linked files so everything matches up. This is a helpful option if you add records in a random order or if you add a new record at a later date. Each summary worksheet has an Add Analysis option at the top of the page. Clicking this will insert a text box below the last used row. You can type anything into this text box, but it is designed to add conclusions of the information entered onto that page. You can format this text box any way you wish. On the index worksheet, you can click on Print Options. This will open a form showing all the print options for the workbook. The index page print options are listed in green at the top of the form. Here you can print, PDF, or export the index page. To print any combination of the index and/or summary pages, you should use the blue and black buttons in the center of the form. Any worksheets listed in the Pages to Print list box will be included when you click on Print or PDF. Clicking Data will include just the index and summary pages that have data on them. So if your person has no military data entered, for example, then that summary page will not come over. Clicking All will include the index and all the summary pages, or remove the index and all the summary pages respectively. To move one worksheet at a time, click on the sheet that you want, and then click Add or Remove respectively. Another option is the red Hide, Unhide button at the bottom. By default, every source record will show on every summary page, regardless if any data exists for that category. Clicking Hide will hide all the rows on the summary page that do not have any details for that record. The Hide option is helpful if you have 30 records and only one has education details. Clicking Hide will hide the other 29 rows, leaving only the one education record on the education summary page. Clicking Unhide will show all the rows on all the summary pages. When you have your desired worksheet selected, then click on the blue Print or PDF buttons respectively. Note that the pages will print in the order the worksheets are listed in the workbook, not in the list box. You can manually arrange the summary pages as you wish. The page setup buttons at the top restore the page setup and print margins to their default values. To close the print options form, just click the red X. Each summary page also has a print, PDF, and export option at the top of the page. The export option will move that summary page data to a new Excel workbook where you can modify it as you please. To change a sheet's footer, use the normal page setup on that specific summary page before printing. You can only delete records from the index worksheet. To delete a source record, on the index worksheet, double-click on the red delete cells in column H in the row of the source you want to delete. This will delete all the data associated to that source in all the summary pages. To delete all the source records, click on Clear Index. Note that deleting a source record will not delete any linked files from your directory. You will have to manually delete them from the View Directory option. On the index worksheet, you can click on the Family TreeXcel logo to come back to this help video and to go to the help worksheet on the Family TreeXcel website. If anything is still unclear or if you have any issues, please don't hesitate to email Mike at familytreexcel@gmail.com.